I want to introduce you to three men who all say that they had absolutely no idea they shared a family bond. A fire chief, a food service worker, and a retired Dallas police officer all got the surprise of a lifetime. Our Marvin Hurst with the unexpected reunion in a story that you'll only see right here on CBS News Tech.
Inside of the Benbrook Fire Station, a gathering of men with pictures from a family tree.
I still am trying to absorb it all and take it all in and learn it. It's fascinating. It's going to be very interesting to go down this road.
Assistant Fire Chief Chris Rossing thought he was the oldest. Then his twin Tony. There's a sister from biological parents who never married. There are step-siblings too. So that's all they knew.
Over the last year, he's tried multiple times, half a dozen or so, to reach out here to no avail, ultimately giving up and telling the secretary, hey, give him my number and my name and have him call me, please.
What the brothers didn't know is that retired Dallas police officer Kurt Kerrville.
Well, I was adopted in Dallas. I was born at Dallas Osteopathic Hospital, and I said I was picked up at Sears and Roebuck, right down the street here, and and he said, so you were probably adopted out of a Dallas court, and I go, probably, I guess, I don't know. And so he turns around, and gets on the computer, he's doing the deal, and he goes, what was your parents' name?
With a little help from a coworker, found out the identity of his parents. He drove by this fire department all the time. Now he had a reason to stop.
Seriously, I really want to do this in person, but here goes.
He's like, yeah, this is Chief Rossing. I was told I needed to call you. And I was like, so I just kind of led into the deal, and asked him, did he know these people? And he said, yeah, I know both of them. They're my parents. And I said, well, they're my parents too, apparently.
I mean, what he said went in and out of my head, and then it took me a minute to realize, wait, what did he just say? And I was like, so I questioned him, like, what did you just tell me? And he had to repeat it, and I was just dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded.
Kurt met his younger brothers, even though for 58 years he had an entire family in North Texas. A sister, a wife, a father who served in the Marines.
When he invited me to his house, and I go up and I knock on the door, and he opens the door, it's like, holy moly.
Now he has new chapters with new characters. And there is another layer. Kurt and the twins have not told his newfound family about this news, so they could be finding out right now. His father is in the Fort Worth area. Of course, there were complicated questions about this family tree that only biological parents can answer. If the blanks never get filled, perhaps the new bond of brotherhood will become the more significant bridge to cross.
It's so good now because it's so unexpected and such a welcome surprise that no regrets at all.
For the man who gives new meaning to the comeback kid. In Benbrook, Marvin Hurst, CBS News, Texas.
In celebration of America's 250th birthday, Rock Island Auctions is selling several pieces of American history. Photojournalist Mike Kinney shows us what's on the auction block tomorrow.
What we have here today is the American sale. This is a true cross-cut section of American history, and looking at, like I said, the history and celebrating the 250th anniversary of our nation through the lens of fine and historic firearms, because they do tell the story. They tell the story of America. What we have here is an AIM sword that was presented to George Armistead. George Armistead was the commander at Fort McHenry at the Battle of Baltimore in 1814 during the War of 1812. George Armistead ordered and commissioned the Star-Spangled Banner, which was raised above Fort McHenry, and Francis Scott Key was in the bay, who then wrote the national anthem. So this sword was presented to the man who inspired our national anthem by having the Star Spangled Banner commissioned. It's a high-grade exhibition presentation Ames sword. On the shield here at the hilt, you have the inscription. We don't have pieces like this come through all the time, and this is one of the most significant and important pieces in American history, as it did inspire our national anthem. So here we have serial number 1 Henry rifle that was presented to Edwin M. Stanton, who was the Secretary of War in Lincoln's cabinet. There's a grouping known as the Lincoln Cabinet guns. Serial number 1 was presented to Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Serial number 6 was presented to President Abraham Lincoln himself. That gun now resides permanently and for an eternity in the Smithsonian. Winchester, Colt, your 2 most iconic firearm brands in American history. And there we have Army 4-star General Norman Schwarzkopf, personal sidearm Beretta, model M9. We were on the hunt for highly specific national treasure worthy, for lack of a better term, absolutely national treasures for this auction, spanning the Revolutionary War to the modern era and everything in between. This is your chance to buy a piece of American history and a national treasure.
Historical renovation project in the nation right now. The Baker Hotel is right here in Little Old Mineral Wells, Texas.
Little old Mineral Wells. Over the past century, the Baker Hotel has been many things to the town of Mineral Wells, from anchoring its identity to becoming a decaying reminder of the good days long gone. But now, after many attempts, there's a fresh effort underway to restore the beloved hotel. And this one, honestly, feels a little bit different. Located just over an hour west of Fort Worth, if you're new to here, our Robbie Owens went to Mineral Wells, along with photojournalist Mike Kinney, to get a good look at the effort to bring the old Baker back.
If you look past the rust, dust, and decades of decay.
Whereas if these walls could talk, it would just be unbelievable, the things that we would learn.
Your imagination might just begin to remind you of the magic that was once the Baker Hotel.
This building. This building is beautiful. It holds so much history. Stars and celebrities used to dine here and used to stay here. And so people are going to want to be a part of that story.
Built in 1926, the Baker story in many ways mirrors that of Mineral Wells.
In short version, we were booming and then we weren't, and we're coming back. There's a huge revitalization effort that's happening in this town, and it's happening piece by piece with a lot of people who are coming together, who love this community, who want to see something special happen here.
Even surrounded by safety fencing, there's nothing more special here than the Baker Hotel.
People want to do things good for their community.
Cody Jordan is with the development team working to restore its glory, and a lot has happened since they were handed the keys in 2019.
So far in the project, we've done all of the windows, all of the doors, all of the asbestos abatement has been completed. The roof has been completed.
The Baker is a historical renovation, so nothing moves quickly, and the process demands meticulous documentation. Some 400,000 photos taken so far. Still, most of that work has been happening away from the eyes of a most curious community until now.
This will look like a fine dining experience.
Event whisperer Lindsay Montgomery has earned a reputation for grand ideas and fabulous parties. Even as construction continues, she's unleashing that energy to create a night at the Baker.
They can get behind the fence and they can feel the life that's still in these buildings.
But oh my, did she underestimate the opportunity's impact?
And I said, okay, push go. And all of the devices, all at once, just ding, ding, all 250 seats were sold out in 3 hours. I think people are going to step inside the door and literally just be in awe. And the feeling that you get when you're in this space is like none other. And so those who have craved it for so long, and I think people will cry and laugh and smile and just not want to leave.
Sunday's Night at the Baker, an appetizer, if you will, of the economic banquet to come. And nearby businesses are banking on it right now. The Baker redo, although still a few years away from completion, is already acting as a catalyst.
And before we started in 2018, there might have been 10 to 20 businesses at the max in downtown. We now have over 145 businesses in our downtown district, and then an additional 70 plus businesses within walking distance.
And at the center of it all, the promised and much anticipated return of the city's grand old lady. And the world far outside of Mineral Wells is watching.
It's not even open for business. We have 97,000 followers on Facebook.
The vision for the 14-story Spanish colonial tower includes 165 fully renovated guest rooms, a spa, event space, restaurant, and more.
How confident are you in that this beautiful old building is going to live up to the dreams that you all have for?
I'm very confident. I'm very confident. Our team doesn't give up. We have a lot of grit. We will turn over every stone to make it happen.
My grandfather, who is 96, remembers all the things about the Baker, and now my children, who are 14 and 6, still are hearing all the things about the Baker. So I think that really speaks to the value and the impact that this has had for generations, and the impact that it will have, and the legacy for generations to come.
In Mineral Wells, Robbie Owens, CBS News, Texas.
Mayor Tate is one of the longest-serving mayors in Texas, and he's very humble about his 5 decades of service. The city is celebrating the mayor's service over the next year, and one event that's going to be held tomorrow morning is the unveiling of a statue of him that they had made in his honor. Grapevine is a city that loves its festivals. Now they're gearing up for the Golden Jubilee, a year-long celebration for William Tate, who has served as mayor for 50 years.
It bothers me a little bit that we're going so far and doing so much, but like I say, we're really recognizing it as not a celebration for me, but a celebration of the entire community.
What do you think about that when you hear 50 years in office?
Well, it makes me feel old. I was 30 when I first was sworn in as mayor, and I'm a senior citizen now, so it's hard to realize how fast life is.
At 84, Mayor Tate still keeps a busy schedule. He meets with the city manager every morning.
What is my schedule this afternoon?
And still works at his private law practice. Some people may hear this and say, Why on earth would somebody want to do this job for 50 years?
Well, I never set out to do that.
But being mayor of Grapevine is in Tate's blood. His father, Gordon, also served as mayor. And during that time, when he was just 8 years old, his father let him release the first fish in Grapevine Lake.
And that inspired me to want to be a part of the community.
He said he hopes the younger generation will continue his family's tradition of service.
We've had a history in this community of our family serving and giving back, and for that to continue would be great.
Among Tate's proudest accomplishments is helping oversee Grapevine become a popular destination, featuring resorts, festivals, and shopping. And one lesson he's learned from residents early on remains true today.
They want more city services for less taxes. And we've dropped it from 80 cents to about 22 cents, which we share with Tyler, Texas, as the lowest tax rate of a city of 50,000 or more.
What is your legacy?
My legacy will be determined by the people. I think
What do you think it'll be?
We've done what they said in the beginning, Mayor, whatever you do, don't lose our identity, our town character, our pride, and our identity. And we've been able to build a modern international city around the historic beginning that we've had. We've got the best of two worlds.
Well, if you didn't know, there's a new mural in downtown Garland, right outside the Granville Arts Center, right at the corner of North 5th and Austin Streets. Kind of sits in that little area once known as the Flats, if you're familiar. Our Dawn White tonight telling us why this community hopes this piece of art will help bring history to life.
Public artist Reginald C. Adams and his team are hard at work, creating a work of art.
We're here in Garland, Texas, honoring the history of the Flats, which was the first African-American community in this area.
The mural is is 3 feet high and 36 feet in length. It includes 15 scenes from the flats, commemorating everything from community and faith to agriculture and business.
I think it gives more of a visual to what we already carry on the inside. Many of us may have pictures, or most of all, have memories.
Community members like Bertha Lipscomb Wallace also helped in laying the nearly 20,000 hand-cut tiles.
Now being able to see it up on that wall means more. It will be there for generations to come.
Her parents moved to the flats from Plano in the 1940s.
My parents stayed, Bertha and Q.A. Lipscomb, and this little girl here is my oldest sister, Quincy. She also attended the colored school, which was downtown in the flats.
The flats was Garland's freestanding black community here. It existed from the early 19-teens into the early 1960s.
Included businesses, homes, a church, and a school called the Colored School. It dissolved in the 1960s.
It's special to have the actual dedication and kind of legacy of this installment be in the actual area of the flats because we have such little artifacts left of the actual flats.
The mural will be officially dedicated during the city's Juneteenth celebration on June 20th. It will have a QR code that you can scan to bring the pictures to life.
I hope the mural serves as a reminder of the significance and the importance of that history and the role that the arts can play in bringing that history to life.
A community once erased, now brought back into the forefront for a whole new generation to learn about thanks to these 6 artists on a mission. In Garland, Dawn White, CBS News, Texas.
Congregants of one of the most historically significant black churches in North Texas heard their final sermon in the building they've gathered in
For more than a century, 110 years, Mount Gilead Baptist Church was featured on Fort Worth's Most Endangered Places list a year ago, highlighting some of the community's most historic landmarks either shuttered or at risk of demolition. Our Don White in Fort Worth today with more on the congregation and where they go from here.
It's the end of an era here at Mount Gilead Baptist Church. Members came together for the final service here in this building, but they say it's just another chapter in their more than 150-year history. The sounds of music, celebration, and community filled the inside of Mount Gilead Baptist Church Sunday morning as the congregation paid a bittersweet tribute to the building it's worshiped in since 1912. Members voted to sell the building after decades of costly repairs and a smaller congregation. The history of Fort Worth's oldest black church begins in 1875 when a group of freed slaves built the original building and helped to found it. It started in a black settlement known as Baptist Hill before moving to the current location on Grove Street. It once housed a swimming pool, gymnasium, and day nursery during segregation.
I hope it will always be a beacon to what I think it was 12 slaves started many years ago, and that needs to be taught, and that history never needs to be erased, because you can't erase history, you can't replace it. But hopefully my great-great-grandchildren will remember this building and remember the significance of it.
To see our ancestors have the tenacity and determination to move, not only building a building, but using that building to help improve the quality of life of Blacks in this community is something that should be preserved, protected, and defended. The building has significance to those of us who have historically known that as a church. But the reality is, the church is inside of us.
The congregation is looking for a new place to call home while the future of this historic building remains uncertain. In Fort Worth, Don White, CBS News, Texas.
As we now approach 1 year since the deadly Hill Country floods, Texas is rolling out new flood warning sirens in the hardest hit areas. But a CBS Texas I-Team investigation found big gaps still exist, leaving many communities without any kind of warning system at all. So tonight, investigative reporter Brian New examining whether lawmakers have fixed the problem or just responded to a crisis.
Sit along the banks of the Guadalupe River, and it sounds peaceful. Flowing water, summer breeze, the quiet of the hill country. But last year, as deadly floodwaters rushed downstream, there was one sound missing.
It was obvious that if sirens had gone off down the upper Guadalupe rivershed as this wall of water was coming down, then people could have had a last-minute warning to get to higher ground.
Senate Bill 3 requires the Texas Water Development Board.
In the days after the July 4th flood, State Senator Paul Betancourt pushed to install outdoor warning sirens in flood-prone areas. Lawmakers moved quickly, approving a $50 million plan. And now those sirens are starting to go up.
This will be the last siren, maybe the one that gets people out of the way. And that's a legislation worth writing and fighting to pass and making sure that it got there on time.
How high did the water get here?
About 27 feet in under 27 minutes.
In the early morning hours of July 4th, Randy Murphy woke up to danger. He moved quickly through his ranch, making sure everyone got to higher ground.
We were very blessed. We didn't have any deaths, but it was there were people that were not as fortunate.
Do you think sirens would have made a difference?
No, because you wouldn't have been able to hear them in that kind of storm.
Murphy says he believes lawmakers, in a rush to act, oversimplified a complex problem.
They really didn't understand what they were saying. They didn't have the background, and they still don't. But here we are.
What's needed, he argues, is something far more sophisticated. A connected network of sensors feeding real-time data capable of pushing targeted alerts to cell phones, radios, and yes, sirens. But our investigation found in many parts of Texas, communities don't even have that one line of defense. Across the state, there is no standard for warning sirens, no state database. Instead, we found systems that are outdated, broken, or missing entirely.
But tomorrow, this siren may mean the real thing.
In some towns like Valley View, sirens date back to the 1950s. And when they're needed the most, these sirens don't always work.
I mean, there was nobody prepared. Nobody had a clue.
In 2024, as a tornado headed towards town, a volunteer firefighter rushed to unlock the gate to sound the alarm. But the siren never made a sound. The city later discovered it had a faulty wire.
We probably have just less than a dozen.
In other places like Fannin County, there's not enough sirens. Just 12 sirens covered nearly 900 square miles, an area that's bigger than Houston.
So what's preventing the county from putting up a dozen more?
Budgetary restrictions? Budgetary constraints?
We contacted all 254 counties and identified more than 2,000 sirens statewide. But that still leaves large parts of Texas out of reach of any warning. In the new state funding, it only applies to hill country counties hit by last year's floods.
We have a patchwork of sirens out there.
Betancourt says lawmakers had to start somewhere, but warns communities shouldn't wait for the state.
We don't need to go through another natural disaster for everybody to realize that we need to get our outdoor warning sirens up and running, use our local monies wisely, use these state funds, and let's get the job done.
Back along the Guadalupe, a new siren now stands roughly a mile from Randy Murphy's ranch. Last month, it was tested, but Murphy says he never heard it.
If they said sirens are going to be it, we're no further along today than we were back on July 4th.
So far, 8 sirens have been installed as a part of this $50 million effort to expand siren coverage here in the Hill Country. These sirens were placed along the south and north fork of the Guadalupe River, strategically placed on campsites to make sure that the people there will hear them. Up next are these 29 counties here in the Hill Country. They have signed agreements with the state and are in the process of identifying the best location for these sirens. With the I-Team, Brian New, CBS News, Texas.
Saturday marks 1 year since deadly floods hit the Texas Hill Country. More than 130 people died, including 27 campers and counselors at Camp Mystic. Our Jason Allen sits down with 2 parents working to make camp safer nationwide.
We all began to be driven by understanding the truth. What happened that night? What happened leading up to that night? What happened following that night?
That night now connects Matthew Childress and Ryan DeWitt forever. Their daughters, Molly DeWitt and counselor Chloe Childress, were in the same cabin. 2 of the 27 girls who were killed.
If we sat back and did nothing, and this happened again, and for another father, another mother, we would be reliving the pain with them.
In a way, you almost feel like you're letting your own daughters down.
Correct.
Correct. At that time, even though I knew it was irrational, I felt that if I could put that timeline together, that I could save my daughter, that I could save these girls.
They were relieved when a state report last month concluded the camp did not prepare for the storm or have a plan to evacuate.
I could physically feel the weight on our shoulders being lifted, that truth was being told to the public.
Make no mistake about it, it doesn't mean that the road ahead is not still really, really difficult for us. To be able to be at the leading edge of meaningful change, that keeps our daughters' purpose and their spirit alive.
That purpose has changed camp safety laws in 3 states already, leading to a nationwide push from the Heavens 27 families.
This is strangely unique that we have had this new group of folks to lean on, in the good and the bad, and it really truly helps us all to be able to get through.
When I'm in a social setting, I would almost always rather be with Matthew or with any of the other dads.
A couple of nights ago, my wife asked me, how do I think this is all going to end? I just paused and said, I hope this never ends. This job of safety is never done. So my hopes is that what we've started will continue not only with our group, but with a larger group nationally over time.
This week, those families announced the kickoff of the Safe Summers Foundation, and part of it includes getting 27,000 families to take a pledge to ask camps questions about kids' safety before they go off to camp. It also aims to raise funds to help nonprofit camps make some of those safety changes and also advocate for new safety laws. Jason Allen, CBS News, Kerr County, Texas.
After the Hill Country floods, the rebuilding is still slow and expensive. Last July's disaster caused more than $18 billion in damage.
Yeah, but many of the people in the places that were hit the hardest are rebuilding without flood insurance. I-Team reporter Brian Yu explains why flood insurance has become so rare in Texas and why more people are dropping it.
You've heard the saying, the show must go on. But at the Hill Country Arts Foundation, that's easier said
The walls are falling down
than done.
I mean, sheetrock was already ripped out, doors were gone, this wall was falling over.
For nearly 70 years, this has been the creative hub for the Hill Country community. Board member Jerry Magnell says they're determined to rebuild, but it won't be easy.
100%.
Did you all have flood insurance?
So we did not have private flood insurance on our property. Again, the water had never come this high. We've never seen anything like it.
Statewide, only about 7% of Texas homes have flood insurance. In Kerr County, the number's even lower, about 2%. Flood insurance is not just rare, it's been disappearing.
We need a national flood insurance program that looks like somebody designed it on purpose, because the one we have right now is not.
Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy says the drop can be traced in part to a major FEMA change. In 2021, under the Biden administration, FEMA changed how it prices flood insurance. The goal was to make premiums more accurately reflect the true flood risk of each property.
We believe when it's based on risk and the individual property characteristics that we do have a methodology that is more equitable and fair.
But as rates rose for many policyholders, the number of people buying flood insurance went down. Nationwide, policies dropped from about 5 million in 2021 to about 4.5 million in 2025. In Texas alone, more than 45,000 flood policies were canceled in just the past year.
This is just an excuse to raise premiums, and they don't care.
Kennedy is now calling on FEMA to go back to its old system.
I think that those members of Congress are being incredibly short-sighted, and I think it's dangerous. And I think
policy expert Zoe Middleton says going back to the old system will not solve the real problem. She says how FEMA calculates risk is not the issue. The issue is that too many people can no longer afford the coverage.
So what Congress can do and what they should do is to mandate affordability for people that we know are going to be struggling to cover their own bills for recovery, right? So it's people on fixed incomes, it's folks with disabilities, elderly folks, low and moderate income families. That is essential to making sure not only that individuals recover, but that entire communities are able to recover.
Back in the Hill Country, that affordability question is real. Without insurance, the Arts Foundation is relying on donations and on a community still trying to rebuild itself.
Our comeback story is 100% part of our community's comeback story, and I think it'll be beautiful.
Now, earlier this year, President Trump set up a review panel to take a hard look at FEMA, how it was spending money, how it was operating. Last month, that panel put out this report. On the issue of flood insurance, the panel says the current system should stay, but changes are needed, as the program is, quote, financially unsustainable. One of the proposed changes is to let private insurers take over many of the policies from the federal government. With the I-Team, Brian New, CBS News, Texas.
1 year since the deadly flash flooding swept through that area. This week, CBS Texas is honored to bring all of you stories of healing, stories of getting back to whatever their new normal is. Our Bo Evans begins our journey for us tonight with a couple who lost their home in the flood, but now, a year later, they finally have a new place to call home once again.
My great-grandfather had settled on this hill. This property has been in my family for 100 years, and my great-aunt and great-uncle had built this house along with my grandfather.
For Mike Trollinger, there's nothing more familiar than the banks of the Guadalupe River.
I learned to swim in that river. My kids had learned to swim in that river.
And it's along this river where Mike, a San Antonio police officer, built a life. First, with the house he restored piece by piece.
Did all the trim and hung in the doors and just did that on weekends coming in from work in San Antonio and just did the flooring and everything in a couple weekends. And I put a lot of blood, sweat, and equity in this house.
Then with Brenda, who would become his wife.
I was a dispatcher and he was a narcotics police officer.
I had the house and just she comes along and helps make it a home.
A dream retirement in a dream home. But faster than a rushing river, that dream became a nightmare.
So that night it started raining about 11 o'clock on the 3rd, and then about 4:45 a.m. A good friend, a neighbor that lives up the top of the hill, she had called me and said, woke me up and said, "You awake?" And I could hear the tone of her voice, and I said, "I am now."
And I just remember, being scared, not understanding what was happening. And he said, "Listen, we just have to get out of here."
We went out the back door, opened the back door, and a wall of water up to our waist had hit us, and we just held on to each other.
It was scary, and he just kept telling me to hold on.
They waded through waist-deep water and made it up the hill to where Mike's dad lived.
And then within 10 minutes, we watched the whole house get enveloped in water from the river, just rushing down.
Just like that, their dream was swept away. But the former San Antonio officer didn't stop. Once he knew Brenda was safe, he went back to help. He found a woman stranded on her roof, her 95-year-old mother still inside her bed.
She, was paralyzed and she had floated, and my husband went over there and broke the window, and with the help of somebody else, they got her out, and he saved her life.
I was in law enforcement for 37 years, and as those that are in the law enforcement or first responders or firemen, you don't think of yourself, you think of your neighbors, and you put them first. I got her safe, I knew she was fine, and then you just kind of go into that mode of, well, who needs help?
But who helps the helpers, like Mike and Brenda, when the water recedes?
I just remember coming down here and just seeing the devastation. Just seeing our stuff everywhere. The next day, me and Mike standing out there looking at everything going, what do we do? Where do we start?
That's where Community Foundation of Texas Hill Country stepped in.
The donor dollars that that have come into the Kerr County Flood Relief Fund are rebuilding homes, not houses.
8 months after the flood, Mike and Brenda's nightmare turned into something they never expected. A $200,000 remodel of Mike's family home, complete at no cost.
If it wasn't for that, I could have done it, but I would have been in debt for the rest of my life. It's nice actually coming home now and put your feet down and going, we're home.
We're home.
In Hunt, Bo Evans, CBS News, Texas.
Good Saturday afternoon, everyone, and welcome into the CBS Texas Stream. I'm Ken Molestina. Today, we celebrate the nation's 250th birthday, but we also take a pause to remember the victims of the deadly flooding that happened a year ago down in the Texas Hill Country. It was in the early morning hours of July 4th, exactly a year ago, when the Guadalupe River rose over 26 feet in some locations. The devastating floods, they claimed the lives of 137 people across the Texas Hill Country. And this weekend, there are numerous memorial and remembrances that are being planned across the area. In just a few moments, the Symphony of the Hills presentation will pause to remember the victims of those deadly floods. Let's go ahead and have a listen.
Give it up for this fabulous symphony. Mayor Herring, Representative Riddell. 250 years. Think about that. 250 years ago, a group of extraordinary patriots signed their names on a document that changed the course of human history. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor to the audacious idea that liberty is not a gift from government. It is a birthright from Almighty God. That idea became a nation, and that nation became the greatest force for freedom the world has ever known. We gather today in the great state of Texas as heirs of the independence that was forged 250 years ago. We are Americans, and that is still the most powerful word in the story of human history. But we know that freedom is not the only thing worth celebrating today. So is courage. So is community. 1 year ago on this very holiday, the waters rose in record numbers, and the Hill Country faced its darkest 4th of July. Families lost everything. Lives were cut short. The Guadalupe River, which has run through this land since before Texas was Texas, became an unyielding force of horrific grief. The names that we carry in our hearts today are not just names. They're fathers and mothers, children, neighbors, souls who love this place as much as we do. They must never be forgotten. But through it all, Kerrville did not break. This community forged in rugged Texas limestone and stubborn Texas spirit, rose from the floodwaters the same way our nation rose from every trial and tribulation it ever faced. It rose together. Tonight, as this symphony plays, as we unite in this majestic theater, we remember those who were lost. We honor those who ran toward danger, the neighbors helping neighbors, the strangers helping strangers. And we declare with one voice that the resilience of this community is as enduring as the American promise itself. God bless the families who grieve. God bless the Hill Country of Texas. And God bless the United States of America.
Well, if you've been watching, certainly an emotional and a poignant remembrance ceremony wrapping up just now over its special presentation of the Symphony of the Hills. We will have more coverage of this event tonight on CBS News Texas after the Great American Block Party 250th. Thanks for watching. This weekend will mark 1 year since the deadly 4th of July flooding that hit the Texas Hill Country. Our media partners at Texas Monthly, they have shared stories of survival and of personal journeys toward healing in a new podcast called Where the River Took Us. Aaron Parsley worked on this project for months. He and his family were in their home along the Guadalupe River when the rushing floodwaters swept them away last year. His young nephew died, unfortunately. Parsley first shared his story with Texas Monthly in his Pulitzer Prize-winning article, and now he's exploring what comes next for himself, for his family, and for the community in this 7-episode podcast. So joining us for tonight's discussion to talk a little bit more about this is Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. You know, surviving the flood itself, that's a traumatic event. We know that. But the aftermath also comes with its own challenges, as many can imagine. What helped guide you or motivate you to work on this project while you had to grapple with your own experience?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I think grappling with my own experience was part of the motivation for wanting to do this project. You know, as you mentioned, I wrote about the experience on the 4th of July that my family had out there along the Guadalupe, just days after the flood. And the weeks and months to come after that, you know, the flood was still on my mind. It was still very present in my life and in the life of my family and many other families in Texas. So for me, it just felt like the story was ongoing, and I was trying to sort through the emotions, the big feelings, addressing the trauma and how to be present for my sister and my family. So all of that just became part of this project, and you know, thankfully I was at Texas Monthly, where there's a great team, a careful team who helped me explore some of these thoughts and some of these ideas and how to handle that kind of storytelling.
You know, Aaron, in the first episode of the podcast, you and your family, they share what you all were seeing, hearing, feeling. I can't even imagine that. But all of that experience as the flood waters, they rose around the family's home. At one point, we learned that the building gets swept away and then it splits apart. You kind of described that. What can you tell us about the moment that you realized that you found yourself really caught up in all of the water? And I know it's traumatizing, so forgive me for asking, but take us back to that moment. What was that like?
Yeah, I think that's still a startling moment. You know, I think if I lost consciousness or blacked out at all that day, it was in the moments between when the house came off its foundation and I found myself suspended in water. That is a gap in my memory that I've struggled to fill. So when I realized I was in water, it was mostly a physical sensation, just feeling myself immersed in liquid. I remember thinking that my shoes had come off. And then in very quick sequence of events, you know, I heard my husband calling for me. I tried to get to him. And then, you know, we were separated and I was swept downriver. And I think at that point, it almost became like a robotic thing. I was grabbing for branches and trying to breathe, and those things sort of happen without thinking about it. But yeah, it was a lot of chaos and fear, of course, but also sort of this a bit of calm, like understanding that, you know, the worst had happened and now I've got to figure something out.
Can't even imagine that. In Where the River Took Us, as it's called, there is an episode that features a Dallas attorney who is leaning on his faith after losing his parents and his two daughters in this tragedy. Now, you seem to find similarities and differences when it comes to religion and community playing a role in the aftermath of all of the flooding. Can you talk a little bit more about that and sort of kind of how that connection really helps, I guess, with some of the coping mechanisms?
Yeah, of course. RJ Harbor was introduced to me by another friend of mine, and we just started a conversation about what his experience was like, what my experience was like, just kind of relating to each other as survivors of this flood starting late last year. And something I noticed was that RJ was his source of strength was his religion and his faith. It was very impressive to me. And we just started talking about that, and I wanted to speak to him at length about that. You know, I talked to him about my spiritual practices. I'm not a religious person, but I do put my faith in a higher power.
Sure.
I do recognize that I am not running the universe, and that I've got to deal with what comes my way. And that's something that I've learned to do in sobriety. Mm-hmm. So it's a totally different thing, but ultimately in our conversation, I think I found that you know, the result is kind of the same. Like, I want to live my life in a way that's, you know, as a good person would, being of service, telling my story, helping others tell their stories. And RJ is, because of his faith, is also leading a life of service and of devotion. And so, you know, I just saw how ultimately we get there through different paths, but we, in the wake of the flood, are actually thinking about life and living life in a similar way.
Yeah, you know, the last episode of the podcast, it's out now. So what are you hoping, Aaron, that listeners are going to take away from all of this ultimately?
Yeah, the last episode of the podcast, which came out today, features a conversation with my sister, Alyssa. I hope people hear how vulnerable she can be and how courageous it is for her to open up and talk about the most difficult moment of her life. I hope that people take from the podcast and understand the strength of my family, the strength of my loved ones, and the strength of our love for each other. But I think ultimately the goal of the project is to help people understand what happened, what life has been like in the aftermath. And I hope what they do with that understanding is show compassion, show grace, and have patience for the people who lost the most in this event.
And as we near the one-year mark, it's coming up this weekend since all of this happened. What has stood out to you, you think, as you visited with people who are now trying to rebuild their lives throughout the entire Texas Hill Country? What do you think really sticks out?
I think the experience of rebuilding is different for everyone, and that's what I kind of take away from this. And for people who are rebuilding homes and a way of life out there, it's one thing. There are people who are rebuilding their sense of faith, or who may be rebuilding their sense of safety, or maybe rebuilding a family life after losing a loved one or a child. So rebuilding just means something very different depending on what your experience was like out there. You know, even within my own family, we were all in the same house, but where we were in the house and who we were, who at that moment, has influenced how the aftermath of this flood has been. So rebuilding is extremely personal, and again, I just hope that folks who know people who are working on these things, you know, understand that a little bit more because of this project.
Well, we want to give you our deepest thanks to Texas Monthly senior editor Aaron Presley. Aaron, thank you so much for this conversation. We really appreciate it, and thank you for everything that you're doing in the light of all of this tragedy here. Of course, you can listen to all 7 episodes of his podcast called Where the River Took Us. It's available for you right now on TexasMonthly.com.
Hey, Madison, does it seem like these robotic cameras are following us?
I don't know what you're talking about. Everything is fine.
Lacey, about these cameras.
I don't want to talk about it.
Carmen, I'm worried about these cameras.
Look, honey, AI is in charge now. You can either get with the program or you can risk making it mad.
Mommy, I'm so happy that you're home.
There are some people whose absence is just impossible to ignore. Even at just 8 years old, Hadley Hannah was one of them.
She just was always happy and loving and just really special, one-of-a-kind little girl.
Hadley was Carrie Hannah's middle child and also her mini-me. Hadley loved sports. She loved making people laugh. And most of all, she loved being a kid.
I'll always be a baby, even when I'm a teenager.
For anybody who didn't have the beautiful experience of knowing Hadley firsthand, can you describe who she was?
She was loud. Her house is really quiet now. She always made her presence known. And she was a great middle sister because she was Harper's best friend and Hunter's best friend. They still love each other so much.
Camp Mystic was part of that childhood, and it was also part of Carrie's childhood too. See, for generations, families have sent daughters to the camp along the Guadalupe River in Kerrville to build friendships and grow their faith. So for Carrie, dropping off her girls last July was a happy goodbye.
The last memory I have of her was her running away from me at camp drop-off and cartwheeling, throwing her hands in the air, and just being so happy. And I guess I'm glad that that is the last thing I saw.
5 days later, historic floodwaters tore through Camp Mystic before dawn, overwhelming cabins as campers slept. Hadley ended up being among the many girls reported missing.
I woke up to my phone just blowing up and asking if I had heard anything about flooding, about girls being found downriver in trees, and I didn't know anything.
Carrie's oldest daughter, Harper, barely survived, and Hadley still unaccounted for. But days later, her body was found.
So her nails were how we identified her, because she'd painted them alternating green and yellow before camp. Just told her how sorry I was and that I loved her and begged her to forgive me.
27 girls and counselors died that morning, now remembered as Heaven's 27, and 9 of them were from North Texas. Carrie says those other 9 grieving parents have now become a new family.
We wish we didn't know each other, because we wish none of us were in this position, but oh, thank goodness we're together.
Senate Select Committee on Disaster Preparedness and Flooding will come to order.
And as the families mourned, they also demanded answers, including the Hannahs, convincing lawmakers in Austin to make a change.
Our precious, hilarious, kind, caring, silly, loving little girl who always wanted to help others died because there was no plan, because there was no backup system or sirens.
Last September, Texas lawmakers passed multiple bills strengthening flood preparedness and warning systems in flood-prone areas.
I think that I have to have a purpose now. And that purpose is protecting my children, their future children, and all the other children that go to camp.
For Carrie, that's only part of Hadley's legacy. When Hadley wasn't cartwheeling through life, she was giving out hugs. And today, that spirit lives on through the nonprofit Hugs from Hadley.
Like, she would just come up and just get you from behind and give you a big hug, and oh, I'd give anything for a hug now. And Doug came up with Hugs from Hadley, and we are just looking for organizations that fit her spirit.
I mean, if she could see all the good that you're doing in her name, if she could see all the people who remember her, all the people who are inspired, what do you think she'd say?
She'd be happy. She'd say thank you.
And maybe give one of those sneak attack hugs,
She'd
right?
give a big hug.
1 year later, green ribbons still wrap trees throughout the park cities. Signs and crosses still decorate front yards. Quiet reminders that this community is forever missing 9 precious daughters. Kerry admits the grief will never disappear, but neither will these girls, and neither will Hadley.
We thought Hadley was destined for greatness, and she still is. It's just not how we expected it to be. And I hate that it took our 27 angels to change things, but they're making a difference.
Amelia McGalvro, CBS News, Texas.
Go ahead and say whatever your favorite item is for Buc-ee's.
Caramelized pecans. It's the way I said it. How do you say it?
I say caramelized pecans.
Caramelized pecans.
The difference from the northern dialect and the southern dialect.
What did you say? It was a chili dog? I haven't even had a chili dog. Is that like a corn dog or a hot dog?
It's like a hot dog. I'm starting to be concerned that you live under a rock.
Maybe I'll be transferring over to Cowboys territory.
Are you?
Okay. Well, we'll see.
You know, 10 times heaven touched the earth out here, and it's kind of a sacred ground.
Mike Richards' ranch was his dream. Love come true is the way he says it.
We'd have fishing tournaments with family and friends, and I mean, we spent a lot of time down here. And now, you know, I don't know if it'll ever be the same because we're not the same, you know.
We first met Mike last July. He lost his cabin on the Guadalupe when the river rose. But what he found will forever stay with him. Mike discovered the bodies of 10 people who died in the flood on his land. At the time, he told me he couldn't sleep till he knew every person on his land had been found.
I just want to lay my head down on my pillow as soon as I can and say that I don't think anymore of them on my land, you know. And I owe that as a father, as a grandfather, as a neighbor.
Today, there are no more bodies left to bury, but those sleepless nights remain.
From July 4th to well, I guess today, I've watched the sun come up.
Those 10 souls still weigh heavy on his heart.
But I wasn't prepared for it. I don't know how any man could be prepared for that. I think it was just the broken heart, you know. It's what it does to you. And man, I ain't had it broken like that before.
But there can still be beauty in a broken heart. This is one of the most peaceful spots on Mike's ranch. The Guadalupe slows to a babbling brook at the base of this tree, now a place of reflection.
A counselor from Camp Mystic was found at the base of that tree.
The volunteers that helped Mike retrieve her body marked it with a cross. One more reminder of what happened here.
Something special to be a little counselor up there, you know, and helping all those kids, and all she did was wanting to have fun that weekend.
But Mike is determined to not let this overwhelming sadness define him and his land he loves so much. He wants to reclaim it for himself and the 10 people who came to rest here, this sacred ground where heaven touched the earth 10 times.
I want to build a big pavilion where I can have barbecues and stuff like that. And those that want to come up here, that spent time out here with us searching, man, I want them to come up here and enjoy themselves and see what Guadalupe's like, you know, on good terms, you know, on our terms.
Because even after everything that's changed Mike and the Hill Country, he's choosing to move forward.
You can wake up every day and decide what kind of day it's going to be, and you know, you're going to have a good day, you're going to look at everything in the past and dwell on it, you know, and that don't do anybody any good. So I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and see what happens.
Just like the river, life keeps moving, even after the storm. In Kerr County, Bo Evans, CBS News, Texas.
I'm Doug Dunbar with CBS News Texas, and this is Bill Jones, biggest name in North Texas sports. Other than Tony Romo, of course.
Doug, I'm just happy to be with the biggest name in North Texas news, Karen Borda.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Karen. Hey, let's get a picture. Doug, do you mind? Hey, let's get some lunch.
Yeah.
Bill, you can come.
Sweet.
CBS News, Texas.
On the nation's birthday, number 250, we welcome you in on this Saturday. Thank you so very much for joining us. I'm Steve Pickett. We are going to talk about the fact that not only are we celebrating this day, but it is, of course, a very somber day for so many here in the state of Texas. Our Kim Molestina in the community of Kerrville, marking 1 year since those deadly floods in the Hill Country. Trying to remember and take homage of so many people here. Ken, we welcome you in on this Saturday.
Yeah, good to see you, Steve, from Kerrville. As you mentioned, this marks a very somber date. It was a year ago that this river behind me, it rose so high, killed so many people out here. It was a total tragedy. And this is something that the community out here is still trying to bounce back from, but they're also trying to find some sense of community in this celebration of the 4th of July. And to that point, I want to give you a live look right now of the celebrations that are taking part in the Louise Hayes Park below me. You can see people out there in the river. There's going to be music out there tonight. There's going to be food, games. There's going to be a lot of celebration for the 4th of July. But this is also coupled along with a remembrance for what happened here a year ago today. So we're going to have a lot more for you throughout this newscast on everything happening out here in Kerrville. But as you can see, some folks out there already beginning to enjoy their afternoon out here. But again, the mood earlier today, Steve, very somber. Now the shift is happening. We're going to bring you a lot more information, a lot more stories from everything happening out here in Kerrville in just a bit, Steve.
Absolutely. Ken, we will see you in just a second. Those folks there trying to soak in, if you will, on this celebration of this day. But it is very, very warm here in North Texas. First alert weather for you now. Meteorologist Damian Lotus. Boy, it is July. That means we're close to triple digits. Have we hit it yet?
That's right, Steve. So far today, no, we have not. Today has been so far the hottest day of the season, but only 99 degrees. I was talking with our producer Carter earlier today, and yeah, we were talking about, are we going to hit 100 today? We did not. We only got up to 99 degrees, so we're going to be watching out for that trend. But overall, headlines as we go forward, it's going to